But we start with some breaking news out of Kentucky, where County Clerk Kim Davis appeared in court yet again just moments ago after being taken into federal custody and found in contempt of court for refusing marriage licenses to same-sex couples. Davis brought back into court this afternoon after 5 of her 6 deputy clerks have now said they would comply with the judge's order to issue marriage licenses. The purpose of this appearance was to see if Davis is willing to accept her deputy's compliance. Court adjourned just a few moments ago, we're told. Davis remaining in custody. Gabe Gutierrez is on the scene for us there live outside the courthouse after an emotional day in court where Davis was in tears. Gabe, at this point, what do we know about what happens next for Kim Davis?
Hi there, Craig. Good afternoon. Well, first, a correction. Kim Davis was supposed to be brought back into court within the last half hour or so. However, her attorney spoke on her behalf, and she did not come back into court. Her attorney saying that she would not, quote, make any representation that she would go along or allow same-sex marriage licenses to be issued through her office. Now, let's back up a bit. In the previous half hour, 5 of her 6 deputy clerks had testified that they would comply with the judge's order to begin issuing these same-sex marriage licenses. What happened then is that the judge took a short break and then was going to bring her back in to see if she would go along with that and would not interfere with that, and then essentially solve the problem. The plaintiffs would then be able to get their same-sex marriage licenses. However, Kim Davis is standing firm, and she is not backing down. She is now, again, she is in federal custody. She is headed to jail. The judge holding her in contempt of court. As you mentioned, Craig, this has been a very emotional day. She took the witness stand earlier today and said that her conscience would not allow her to issue these same-sex marriage licenses. Craig?
What does this mean then for same-sex marriage licenses in Ashland County or in Ashland, Kentucky?
Well, Craig, right now there are 3 county clerks in Kentucky, Kim Davis and 2 others, that are not issuing these same-sex marriage licenses. Now, the judge was very clear here. He says he does not want to have any dangerous precedent, as he called it. He wants to make sure that the law is followed. In his words, he says the court cannot condone the disobedience of any lawfully issued order. And he said that the court doesn't do this lightly, holding Kim Davis in contempt of court. So the judge acknowledged that whatever he does here has a ripple effect, and there are many government officials throughout the country that are looking at this case and seeing if they can object to what the Supreme Court decided just a few months ago in June, that the Supreme Court ruled that gay marriage was legal throughout the country. And so this would be a ripple effect the judge sees, and he essentially says that this is the law of the land and it must be followed, and he did not grant the defense's motion. Kim Davis's lawyers, they are arguing that this is all about religious freedom, that it is factually impossible, they said, for her to issue these same-sex marriage licenses because it is a part of her core being, essentially, that it is such a part of her, such a part of her religion. And when she was on the witness stand today, she testified that it was in January of 2011 when she became an apostolic Christian following the death of her mother-in-law, and she broke down in tears on the stand and said that it had changed her life and that she just couldn't bring herself to issue these same-sex marriage licenses. Now, there is some question now about what happens next. Can there be a legislative fix to this? Can there be an executive branch fix to this? The lawyers for Kim Davis, they brought up that couldn't the governor somehow, by executive order, step in and change the form so that her signature wouldn't have to be affixed to this document? There was a lawyer for the governor's office present there, and he said no, the governor cannot do that. And in a statement yesterday, the governor, or 2 days ago rather, the governor said that there would be no special session, that he would not call a special session to deal with this issue in the coming months. Lawmakers here in Kentucky don't come back into session until January. So right now, again, Kim Davis is held in contempt, and she is in federal custody. Craig?
All right, Gabe, stand by for me if you could there in Kentucky. I do want to bring in Paul Henderson, though, for a moment, former prosecutor. Paul, typically in cases like this where a judge has issued a ruling, he's issued an order, and finds someone in contempt, he sends that person to jail. How long do they stay in jail? How does this typically play out?
Well, there's a broad range of options that the court has, but in a case like this, the court can hold that person indefinitely until they express a willingness to comply with the court orders. And in this case in particular, I think it's absolutely appropriate, and I'm encouraged to see the court take the stand that it did, rather than trying to come up or craft some sort of accommodation, which I felt would have opened the door to other acts throughout the country from other individuals that didn't want to follow what they know now to be the law. As an elected official and as a person in public service, you're not allowed to bring in your personal beliefs to deny the rights of others, especially when it's so clear, as it is in this case, what the law actually is. So I'm encouraged by the court's decision, and I do think that it will send a message to others that Kim Davis can be held indefinitely until she expresses a willingness to comply and to follow the law as we all know it, which will affirm the rights for the rest of the communities and throughout the country.
Why order her to jail instead of ordering her to pay a fine?
Well, I think it's a combination of things, because if she's ordered to pay a fine, who knows where that money would have come from. One of the things that's interesting about the fine, though, is that because she was acting outside of the scope of her job, right? So she is not protected financially from immunity with civil fines like this because she was acting outside of the scope. And even if she was becoming or turning into a false martyr for whatever movement she believes that she's standing up for, many of the funding sites that would or could contribute money to her are restricted because they have their own restrictions, for instance, like the GoFundMe campaign, which cannot support discrimination. And because this is such a clear case that she is acting beyond and outside of the law, she would not be eligible for those kind of campaigns and would be held liable personally for the fines. I just don't feel in a case like this that would have made a difference, and the court wanted to send a strong statement to her and to other officials that as an official, you must follow the law. The court cannot accept people using their personal beliefs to deny the rights of others by not following the law, and that's why she's in custody right now.
Gabe Gutierrez again standing by for us outside the courthouse. Gabe, I want to come back to you here just for a moment. Did you get the sense from her attorney how long Kim Davis is prepared to stay in jail?
No, we did not get that sense from her. She was very determined. As she left the courtroom, actually, she was led away by U.S. Marshals, and she did turn to the judge and say, "Thank you, Judge." That was her final. Those were her final words as she left the courtroom. We do know that, according to what she testified on the stand, her conviction is very strong here. So it's anyone's guess how long she is prepared to stay in jail. The judge said that this, she would get out of jail as soon as she complied with the law. But Craig, I want to return to the point you were talking about earlier with the part about why didn't the judge just impose a fine here?
Right.
And he actually discussed this. He said that the fine, a financial penalty, would be insufficient, the judge said, because while she was on the witness stand, she was asked whether anyone has offered to help her financially for any penalty that may come of this. And she said that she has gotten, she said that she has not solicited any funds, but she said that many people have called her office and that have offered her money. And they believe in her cause and they believe in religious freedom and they have offered her money. However, she said she has referred all those calls to her counsel. So because of that, the judge said that he did not believe that any financial penalty would be sufficient because there would be a possibility that outside money could come in here and potentially help her pay this fine. So that's why the judge, in the judge's words, he said that she needed to go to jail, essentially. Correct.
Gabe Gutierrez for us on duty there in Kentucky. Paul Henderson on duty as always out west for us. Thanks to you both. Do appreciate your time.